Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Tina's Wish 2021 Virtual Boston Gathering. I'm Jim Wallach. I'm a director at Goulsman Stores and one of the Boston Gathering co-chairs. A huge thank you to everyone for being here tonight to support this worthy cause. As many of you know, my mom passed away from ovarian cancer at the age of 60, just 9 weeks after she was diagnosed. And my sister-in-law, Rachel, is an ovarian cancer survivor, having been diagnosed at an earlier stage. So I want to thank all of our generous sponsors, as well as the Boston Gathering Committee, for all of their efforts during a particularly challenging year. I know some of you have attended the Boston Gathering in the past, but for those of you who may not be as familiar with the details of this cruel disease, there is currently no effective early detection screen for ovarian cancer, which is why treating it is so difficult, and which is why it is the #1 deadliest gynecologic cancer. Tina's Wish, which was founded in memory of former New York bankruptcy Chief Judge Tina Brosman, is exclusively focused on solving this problem. Let's hear more about the urgency of the Tina's Wish mission and the hope for the future.
Grace is a mother, a wife, a partner, a sister, a daughter, a friend. Unable to see the storm brewing inside her body. A body beginning to send signals that there's a problem. Symptoms like bloating, upset stomach, frequent urination, and abdominal pain were never taken seriously, so she sought a second opinion, and a third, and a fourth. When the pain was so severe, she was sent to the hospital for extensive evaluations. Evaluations that weren't routine in the countless offices she had visited. She was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer. Like so many women, Grace went undiagnosed for far too long. If Grace had been diagnosed in stage 1, when the storm was building, she would have had a 91% chance of surviving. At stage 4, women face a 27% survival rate. It's time to quiet the storm. What if women could be routinely screened for ovarian cancer? What if early ovarian cancer indicators could be found in common pap smear-like tests? Or with using implantable nanosensors, or in new technology yet to be explored? What if early stage detectors could be seen within biomarkers in a simple drop of blood? No more what ifs. With your support, we now fund more than 11 early detection research projects annually, including projects in clinical studies and trials. We are closer than ever to making Tina's Wish come true. The ability to save 150,000 mothers, wives, partners, sisters, daughters, and friends globally just like Grace every year. Together, we do more. No early, no hope. Join us today at tinaswish.org.
As you heard in the video, an early detection test is urgent, and we're all here tonight to change the trajectory of this disease. Tina's Wish is funding the best minds in the country to develop an early detection mechanism for ovarian cancer. Cancer does not stop during a pandemic, but neither did Tina's Wish. Their researchers continued their life-changing work despite the challenges. I'm excited to announce that the Boston Gathering has already raised $60,000, which will go towards this life-changing research. This is incredible, so thank you very much. Now, let's go even further. The Brosman family has challenged us all to a matching grant, and they'll match up to $10,000 of individual gifts made during this event. If you believe that all women and families deserve a fighting chance against this disease, then please show your support tonight. To do so, visit tinaswish.org/Boston Match. It's Boston Match. The Tina's Wish team is putting the link in the chat as well. All contributions will be acknowledged on the post-event webpage and email. If you're on the fence, think of your mothers, your wives, your daughters, your sisters, your friends who are all at risk for this disease, and donate generously. Help us meet the $10,000 matching grant. And next up, please sit back and be inspired by fashion model and ovarian cancer survivor and thriver, Ash Fu.
My name is Ash Fu, and I live in Brooklyn, New York. I've lived in New York now for about 7 years, and I moved here when I was 17 from Toronto for modeling. I was just fresh out of high school, and I was gonna go to university, but I kind of wanted to experience what this industry had to offer me. I was actually in a very stressful relationship. I had a lot of internal stress that I was battling, and it really accumulated in a way that I didn't expect. I had bloating. I also had like very intense back pain at night. It never went away. I would say after 2.5 months, I finally went back to Toronto, and as soon as I saw my doctor, all she had to do was touch my stomach and was like, "You need an ultrasound, like right now." When I finally saw the oncologist, she was like, "Okay, we're gonna do another ultrasound." Once she saw the results, she was like, "Okay, this is what it is. It's dysgerminoma. We need to take it out right now. You're gonna go into surgery on Friday," and it was on Wednesday, mind you. When I got out of surgery, they knew that I had it. So they took out my right ovary, but they saw that I had a tumor in my left ovary as well, but it was like significantly smaller. And because I'm so young, they wanted to save my fertility. So they chose to leave it in there, and they chose to then for me to do chemotherapy. They had hope that it would go well, but in my unfortunate case, it didn't. So I had to have it taken out. From the female perspective, for me as a 25-year-old, not having the choice to have my own children anymore, like that was hard for me to go through. I feel like I'm a very strong believer in having scars tell a certain story about where we've come from and what we've experienced in life. And because this experience that I went through was so important to me, that's what this scar reminds me of. I see it as a symbol of strength and a symbol of just telling myself that if I can go through this, that I can go through anything. No one taught me about ovarian cancer. I didn't know anybody that went through it. I didn't have anyone in my family that went through it, so I didn't know anything about it. I think what Tina's Wish is doing is very important because like Tina herself and like me, we didn't have the information that we needed. If there was early detection and prevention, I feel like women of all shapes and sizes and ages wouldn't have to go through what I went through. I really hope that Tina's Wish can create that for us and for our community and help women in the future.
Wow, what a powerful and moving story. We're so glad to know that Ash is feeling well and excelling in her modeling career. Most recently, she's in the November issue of British Vogue. Now I'd like to pay tribute to some of the women who we've lost to ovarian cancer. Tina Brosman, Gina Courtney, Boston Committee member Kevin Courtney's wife, Janine Harrington, Boston Committee member Tyler Harrington's mother, Delia O'Toole, Boston Committee member Patrick O'Toole's mother, and my mother, Jacqueline Wallach. These women inspire us and our brilliant researchers to work harder so that future generations of women have a fighting chance against this disease. Tonight, we have an incredible panel, but we'll hear from some of these brilliant minds. The panel will be moderated by arts and entertainment critic and two-time ovarian cancer survivor, Joyce Kulhaywick. Joyce is going to lead a Q&A with Tina's Wish researchers, Dr. Dipanjan Chowdhury from Dana-Farber Cancer Institute and Dr. Kevin Elias from Brigham and Women's Hospital. They're conducting a clinical study for their project focused on developing an ovarian cancer early detection test. Before Joyce kicks off the panel, let's all watch this 1-minute video about their project.
Fundamentally, what we're trying to do with Tina's Wish is come up with a way to diagnose ovarian cancer before women have any symptoms of the disease. What we've been looking at are the levels of very small pieces of genetic material called microRNAs in the blood, and we have found that these microRNAs can distinguish those women who have cancer from those who don't.
These new class of molecules, microRNAs, haven't been looked at in this context before.
We're using the power of artificial intelligence and machine learning to analyze these microRNAs.
MicroRNAs telling us who has cancer and who doesn't with 93% accuracy, that's a big moment.
And for the first time, we were able to show a test that worked almost as well for patients with stage 1 disease as for women with advanced stage disease.
And absolutely, there's no way we would have been there without Tina's Wish. Not even close.
Hello, everybody. Hi, I'm Joyce Kulhaywick, and I have to say I never get tired of seeing that video. I love when Dr. Chowdhury says, that's a big moment, and it is. It always feels kind of miraculous to me somehow. Before we start the panel, I just wanted to give a special shout out to 2 families who are joining us tonight. Tyler Harrington and Sarah Hawkins and their families, and I know many of them are watching right now or tuning in. Both families have recently teamed up with their communities to do some extraordinary fundraising on behalf of Tina's Wish. And they were really passionate about the work that's being done at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute and also Brigham and Women's Hospital. I just want to thank you for your support in memory of your moms. And they are Janine Harrington and Sarah's mother, Laura DeSimone. We thank you so much. And right now, I am very happy to welcome back 2 of my favorite scientists on the planet. I never get tired of hearing from these men because they really hold a key that's certainly central in my life and my health experience. I'm going to moderate a Q&A with them, and then you will be able to have a chance to ask them questions as well. So if you have a question, all you have to do is type it into the chat space. All the questions will be anonymous, so you don't have to worry about that. And I think we're just going to kick it right off. Dr. Elias, since that video was recorded, I understand that there's been an improvement in the accuracy of those numbers. Tell us about that.
Yeah, in the most updated version of the test, we're now looking at an accuracy a little bit north of 95%, which has been fantastic.
Wow.
And that's across all comers. So we're very excited about that.
I mean, that's unusual, I think, to have that kind of number for this kind of test. I mean, that you had to be shocked yourselves.
What's been really incredible has been how reproducible the result has been. And we've looked at samples now from 9 different countries, working with collaborators from around the world. And consistently, we find that these microRNAs are highly predictive for identifying women with ovarian cancer.
Wow. Okay, so that, I mean, right there, very exciting update to your progress. But Dr. Chowdhury, you have another update in the progress. And I know this is something that we've been raising funds for a long time. Give us this update, please.
Yeah, so this is the MIDE study, the microRNA detection study. And again, I know it's not new anymore, but Kevin and I are always excited to talk about it. So we started the study finally with all the data. We could start a real clinical study, which is a big deal, which is actually collecting samples from current patients, current families to test whether our work, the results we have actually holds true. So this MIDE study was started in the fall of 2019, late fall, right before the COVID pandemic. But it's been super exciting. We have been able to piggyback off some of the new resources, for example, mobile phlebotomy. So basically, we can get blood from all over the country, not just patients at the Dana-Farber or in Boston. We have a very active website, active social media. Ryan, who's, I believe, attending this, he's the clinical research coordinator, has done a fabulous job of spreading the word and doing everything it takes. So we are getting samples from all over the country, just mailed to us. It's just blood, so not such a big deal. And it's moving at a pace.
Wait a minute, I think that's a big deal.
Well, if it was some sort of a biopsy material or a tumor, it would be harder. But with blood draws, you go to the Quest or these kind of places, and the system works. We are piggybacking off systems that are in place, and it's really accelerated the number of samples we have been able to get and number of people who have enrolled. So super exciting times. I can't wait to get to the end of this to know how well our test works.
Right, and this would be just a simple blood draw that somebody would have?
Yeah, and it's a simple blood draw. What it entails is that if you sign up for this, you have to be from a high-risk family. This study is specific for high-risk families, where the accuracy of our test is 99.8. So it is super accurate that we should be able to detect the cancer. Wow. And the blood draw will, basically the blood will be drawn, processed, and shipped to us. And we will do all the analysis and you will get your report. So that's basically what we are hoping to do over time.
I think we do have a URL for that MIDI study, and it is MIDI, and that would be capital M, small I, capital D, small E, MIDstudy.org. And Tina's Wish is going to be sending out that URL in an email, and it's also being posted in the chat right now. So take a look at our chat, which we've got running here, where you're going to enter your questions. Dr. Elias, who is actually eligible for this test? I know I wanted to give you my blood, but you said I didn't qualify. So tell me who is eligible, how you qualify, and what the steps are for that.
So as Panja mentioned, this first study that we have, the MIDI study, is focused on high-risk individuals. So that means individuals who have at least one ovary, who do not have a personal history of ovarian cancer, who have either a gene that predisposes them to ovarian cancer, such as a mutation in the BRCA1 or BRCA2 genes, or other genes that have been associated with ovarian cancer, or they have a family history of either ovarian cancer, breast cancer, or certain GI cancers like pancreatic and colon cancer, which might also suggest an increased risk. So if people aren't sure, then they can contact our clinical research coordinator. We can look at their family history to decide if they would qualify as high risk. But any of those groups we would consider to be a high risk individual, and they're eligible to join the study. And they can be in all 50 states.
And so if you have had ovarian cancer, you do not qualify for this particular study, but
correct,
you fall into a high risk category.
Exactly. The purpose of this study is to take women who have no symptoms of cancer and to look at their blood, and then to see, are we able to predict those women who then go on to be diagnosed with cancer. This is an observational study, but it's our first step to a truly interventional study. We have to be sure that the test accurately picks up the women who might have cancer, doesn't falsely identify women who don't have cancer. And then we hope to follow this up with a truly interventional study where we'll be able to counsel women one way or the other based on their blood result.
Exactly. And we know that one of the problems with this disease is that it is such a silent killer, and that the symptoms are very, very subtle, look like a lot of other things, and are pretty easy to ignore. Once you are enrolled in the study, what else do you have to do? What does it entail?
We basically just need, it's a 5-year study. That's the length we have decided. So the idea is to be able to get blood from you every 6 months from the eligible folks who sign up for this. And then the whole point is to be able to monitor the blood. So we will know over time if something is changing. And if, they will obviously have their own physicians and their folks who they go to. So if anything else happens in between, if they see some other symptom, then, we will have access to that information. It's just trying to, what is called a longitudinal collection, serially collecting the blood years before something shows up. And then having the way to predict, and we have a lot of data supporting this, that we expect that we should be able to detect the disease when there is no other signs a couple of years before. So we want to make sure that's actually working in real time with current patients or families.
So tell me, I mean, that certainly is the goal. What's the action goal here? What's the end game once you get this test down?
End game. Well, Kevin, go for it. We can both do
The
it.
end game is to have a blood test that we can offer to all women. I mean, it's, at the end of the day, we really anticipate that a blood test very similar to the one that we're trialing right now will be available to all women as part of their annual medical care. And that will be able to provide an individualized risk assessment about what your risk of being diagnosed with ovarian cancer is, both now, but also over the next 2 to 3 years. Because yes, we want to diagnose cancer early. We also want to prevent cancer. And so we really want to identify those women who might have a microscopic cancer just starting and catch it at either its earliest stage or even before it's fully developed would be the goal.
Right. So how long do you think it's going to be before you could walk into your gynecologist's office or just your general practitioner's office and say, I want that test? Or before, I mean, what's a realistic gauge of how long that might take? That's one of our questions here, actually. Somebody's asked that already.
Well, I feel like
Yeah.
it's a question we always get, but it's a bit of a moving target. What I will say is that the recruitment to the MIGHTY study is going much faster than anticipated. So our goal had been to recruit 500 women and follow them for up to 5 years. And despite the pandemic, in the first year and a half roughly of active recruitment, we've recruited almost 300 women. And so it's going much more quickly, which does move things faster. We anticipate that a test will be available for high-risk women first. And hopefully, if the MIGHTY study is successful within the next few years, I can't be more specific than that.
Right.
And then the goal, of course, would be to follow that up with the test for the general population.
I have another question that's come in. Is this study available to family members living outside of the United States? And if not, are you aware of any similar studies that are taking place abroad?
I can take that in a different way. So there have been previous studies in the UK particularly where this blood has been taken, but not for microRNAs, obviously. That's the unfortunate aspect. But what we have now is we have access to those samples. So there was a major study in the UK called the UK FOX study, where they collected from 5,000 women with high risk, 35,000 samples over almost a period of 7 to 9 years. We now have recently signed an agreement to get all those samples at Dana-Farber to analyze them, to really know how well our test would span. This would be amazing because this is the complementary test. It was just done in the past. So there are blood from these women years before some of them developed ovarian cancer.
That's unbelievable. Yes, Dr. Elias, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say the MIGHTY study is currently only open in the United States. That said, there's nothing about the technology involved that it wouldn't be able to be deployed more broadly. And hopefully with follow-up larger studies, we will be able to make it an international study.
I have a question, and that is and I'm not sure I'm using the right language here, but is this test a template for an application to other cancers? I mean, is what you're doing here, can this be applied more widely to cancers beyond ovarian cancer?
Absolutely, Joyce. This is exactly what we want to do. We are applying this same technology for all the cancers that we can with the limited resources we have. We have made significant advances in pancreatic cancer. Kevin has been working significantly on endometrial cancer. We are basically trying to tackle cancers for which there is no test right now. Right. And for which, the early detection is the key to survival. For pancreatic cancer is one of those which we all know about. It's a silent killer. Its numbers are rapidly increasing. So we are focused on trying to use the same technology. It may not work as well. We have to combine it with other things, but definitely that's a goal.
I have a question. It's a more personal question from an audience member. How did a radiologist and a clinician connect and embark upon this incredible collaboration? How did you find each other?
Well, Kevin, why don't you go for it?
I was going to say, we actually, it worked out kind of serendipitously. I was interested in studying microRNAs for their role in ovarian cancer from the biology perspective, particularly how they were affected by surgical stress and stress of surgery. And I was introduced to Dipanjan because he was already an expert in the basic science of microRNAs, had been studying their role in DNA repair. And so, and then we hit it off, and we had the idea that since we were collecting some blood samples from patients at that time, wouldn't it be interesting to see if there were microRNAs that tended to be more expressed in the patients with cancer than those without? I just happened to have some cohorts of patients that had either no cancer or cancer. And immediately it jumped out that there was something there, and we've been running with that ever since.
And
So
I
I
have a
have been-
question. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just want to add to this. So we had developed some similar things for radiation. So, I work in radiation oncology, but the basic aspect of it, we had microRNAs, the technology for looking at radiation exposure with microRNAs. And so when Kevin came with his samples and the idea that can we kind of use the same technology in the context of, and he's a surgeon, so the context, actually his first context was with anesthesia. We were like looking at finer things. So wait a minute, we actually don't even, we can go do that more, that's more subtle, but the ovarian cancer was the more obvious thing. Once we did the first experiments, that's the moment is captured in the video, 93%. I mean, that's it.
It's incredible. It really is. And I have one more question. Actually, there are a couple of questions here, but, and I will say who asked this question because I know her, Debbie First. It's so nice to see your face in the gallery. Debbie First has a question about how you work with geneticists at Dana-Farber to determine who is at risk for ovarian cancer.
It's all about the geneticists at the Dana-Farber. So Judy Garber is our leader in person for this. So this started in the cancer genetics program at Dana-Farber, where they and we, the resources we get, the infrastructure is really being Judy's team. And now we have a BRCA center at the Dana-Farber, which Judy and I co-direct with Panos Konstantinopoulos. But it's really their first, they get the first pass in deciding when we started the MIDI study. So Kevin and I work very, very closely with Judy and our team. Absolutely.
I think we've got to go to the breakout sessions, although I have a feeling that we could go and go and go here tonight. But thank you so much. I'm going to give that URL one more time. The URL to find out all the information about how you join the study, who qualifies, what it costs, etc., is mydstudy.org, and that's capital M, small I, capital D, small E, study, mydstudy.org. There you go. And I just want to thank you so much, Dipanjan and Kevin, Drs. Chowdhury and Elias, for being with us tonight, for doing your extraordinary work. And all I can tell you is that I've lost several friends, family members, etc., and almost lost my own life. If I'd had a test like this, and if they did, they'd all be here now. So we're with you, heart and soul, and we hope with a lot of pledges tonight. So thank you so much. I also want to say thank you to the Brosnan family, and your donation is going to have a double impact tonight. And I think that we are now going to go to, let me give you one more link, and that is visit tinaswish.org/Boston Match. You can also check the chat for the direct link. I always find talking to them incredibly inspiring. So just go to that link and make a donation. And I think we've actually got somebody kicking off with a huge donation here of $1,000. So I think that sounds fantastic. Again, thank you to the Brosnan family. Your donation is going to have double the impact tonight. Everybody who donated ahead of tonight, your donations also will count towards that match as well. And I mean, this test is the key. This test is going to save lives. This is a silent killer. We need to get out in front. And all I can tell you is I'm very excited, and I was from the minute I met them and continue to be so. Right now, it is time to join our breakout sessions. There are 4 breakout sessions for you to choose from. The first one I'm going to tell you about is bankruptcy and restructuring professional networking. The other one is Q&A with the doctors featuring Dr. Chowdhury, Dr. Elias, and Tina's Wish Scientific Advisory Board member, Dr. Joyce Liu. She's from the Dana-Farber. That will be moderated by Boston Committee member Tyler Harrington. And Fall Food Trends featuring ovarian cancer survivor and chef from America's Test Kitchen, L. Simone Scott. And that's going to be moderated by Boston Committee member Tina Vitale. And then I'm going to be talking about, in my breakout session, the things that are very close to my heart beyond Tina's Wish and ovarian cancer. Movies, theater, TV, what to watch, what I like, what I hate, and I want to hear from you too. Here's what we need to do. If you are interested in joining the Bankruptcy and Restructuring Networking breakouts, you just click the Bankruptcy Networking link that is now in the chat. That is a link to a separate Zoom, and you have to click on that link in order to get to that topic. So please note that you're going to be leaving this Zoom meeting and joining a new Zoom meeting. Everybody else, please simply click the Join Breakout Room button, which is at the bottom of your screen, and join the breakout room that interests you. There's going to be 3 options, as I just described. And then again, for those interested in the bankruptcy and restructuring, just click on the link in the chat. And if you're still confused, stay in the main room. People labeled Tina's Wish are going to be there to help you. So we'll see you in a few.